Greg Pickel, what could be better than a James Franklin signing day press conference on the first Wednesday in February from Beaver Stadium? We just got done talking to him.
Yes.
And he was pretty wound up because he talked about the signing the 2019 class. He also talked about the transfer portal, not a fan.
No.
And he also talked about a little bit about the Lions maybe heading into spring. So what was your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, we might as well start with the transfer portal, because obviously that was the thing that he was most... Is frustrated the right word?
Yeah, frustrated.
I think obviously it had some of the intended consequences, maybe not a lot of unintended consequences. Maybe the biggest one of all, that it became public.
He did not like that.
That this database of guys looking to transfer became public, and it made a lot of situations trickier than I thought he maybe envisioned they would be. But the other thing too, Bob, is it's a really long, we could probably just do one whole video on that. But I mean, the long and short of my takeaway from his multiple answers on that topic is that he thinks the NCAA maybe went a little too far.
Overcorrected.
Overcorrected was the word he used, and also talked about the fact that, obviously the grad transfer rule isn't necessarily playing out like most thought it would, in the sense that it was supposed to be to go get a master's. Now everyone just uses it as a chance to graduate early and go play somewhere else without sitting out a year. So I think it's safe to say James Franklin would like to see some things fixed with the transfer portal, but as he said, they're going to embrace it, work within it, and I think you can be almost certain they will try and add a few grad transfers here over the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think they will as well. The biggest names I think that really, they lost a lot of kids to the portal, which actually doesn't exist. It's, there's not actually a portal
to go through, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a figure of speech. Actually, it is a figure of speech. But anyway, so Juwan Johnson, but I don't know that he was going to factor into the plans this year anyway. And also, I think Jarvis Miller was another guy that's going to play at UMass. Manny Bone was already out of the gate anyway. He's at Utah. Yep. But he was just he was waiting for that question. Yeah. And I would say he spent a good 10 minutes just talking about the portal. But let's talk about some other things with signing day in the books. Let's just start with Tommy Stevens and Lamont Wade.
Yeah.
Tommy Stevens could have transferred last year, opted to stay. James Franklin made it pretty clear that as they go into spring workouts, even though they're impressed with what Sean Clifford did, it's Tommy's show. And Greg, the way that he talked about Tommy's commitment and his loyalty and all of that, it leads me to believe that they like Clifford, but it's going to take a lot to unseat Tommy Stevens.
Yeah, I think the only thing that might unseat him is injury, right? And that's been a problem throughout his career. The one thing James Franklin didn't say is that Tommy Stevens is 100% healthy. Yes. This is Citrus Bowl, didn't travel. At that point in time, it was an injury. Now, James has said that during the 2018 season, he had a significant injury that kept him from developing and doing the things they wanted him to do. So it's still up to the debate, I think, whether he'll be healthy for spring practice. That'll go a long way in determining that, but if he is, he'll be 1, Clifford 2, and so on down the list. And you said it a few minutes ago, not a terrible surprise, but I think for as guarded as sometimes James Franklin can be, it was interesting to have him come out and say that.
Yeah, also, just real quick on Lamont Wade, he was the one kid that entered the portal and escaped the portal and landed back in State College. Right. He's going to be part of the Penn State defensive backfield picture moving forward. And James said they had a lot of earnest, healthy discussions and felt that process within the portal was handled well.
Yeah, they sat down and talked about it sort of in a similar way to Tommy Stevens, but again, James was quite clear about the fact that the big difference was everyone assumed Tommy Stevens was probably looking around, but you didn't know it for sure. It wasn't out on social media. It wasn't being discussed here, there, and everywhere. Lamont Wade's was, and that was the big difference, I think, in this, because as soon as it gets out there in the public sphere, a lot of people start offering their inputs, and it wasn't, and this maybe goes more to the NFL draft side of things than the transfer portal, but it wasn't lost on me. He spent a lot of time complaining about agents being able to talk to freshmen, so he's not thrilled with that new NCAA rule either. You can now talk to just about anybody in the program. It's no longer an eligibility factor, it's anybody, and that's another problem I think he sees with the new NCAA rules.
Okay, let's wrap this up with our thoughts on Penn State's new wide receivers coach, Jared Parker. But before we get to that, we got to talk about the outgoing receivers coach, David Corley, who was not in State College very long. James Franklin said he's a loyal guy. He's only really had to fire guys twice in 9 years as a head coach. One was John Donovan after the Michigan State game in the 2015 season. That happened awfully quick. So did the Corley dismissal right after the Citrus Bowl, the day after. Yet he said he still thinks about it to this day. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously he's an emotional guy and a relationship guy as it is, so I'm sure it does bother him to make these moves. It doesn't mean he hesitates to make them.
Right.
And he certainly didn't hesitate in either of those two cases.
That's a good distinction, I think.
I mean, David Corley, for whatever reason, he came to coach one position and then got moved to another one because a better coach came along. It was kind of doomed from the start. So they get Jarrett Parker. I was impressed by him. I was. I thought he was a guy that talked the part and walked the part, and I think Penn State fans will like him, and he was a part of adding at least one of the guys that ended up signing today, which is why we're here in the first place, even though we're talking about so many other things.
The fans love it. Believe me, they're loving it. And just so the fans know, Juwan Siders had a relationship with Parker at, I think, at a previous school. And also, James Franklin said, James Franklin is a big interview guy. He is a very big interview guy.
Maybe not with us.
This guy was the interim head coach at Purdue. Also coached at Duke. He said he crushed the interview. So I think James knew the minute he talked to him, this was going to be the guy.
Yeah, I don't remember Purdue being passionate in that 69. Was it 69-24?
62-24, and he said it was a lot closer, I think, than the score indicated.
It was not.
Felt like a blowout to me, but that's. I mean, James looked at it differently.
Right.
So that's it from here. We're going to have a lot more to talk about and write about off of this signing day press conference, which just went down from State College.